G'day boys and girls, today we are looking at cordless routers. What I want to determine in this video is which is the most powerful cordless router you can get. On the bench here I have three of the most powerful ones in their class. This is the top 18 volt. It's kind of like a trim router, but it's a little bit bulkier, has a lot of different attachments, works quite differently to all the other ones from other brands like HiKOKI, Makita, AEG, Rigid, Ryobi. It runs a lot slower, has a lot more torque, and yeah, can just fly through stuff compared to other 18 volt routers. Over on the left we have the new Makita XGT 40 volt trim router. This is the most powerful 36 volt trim router. It's better than the HiKOKI or Metabo HPT. And then when it comes to HiKOKI or Metabo HPT, we have the big 1/2 inch plunge router here, which is still currently the only 1/2 inch plunge router that's available in cordless. Each one of these tools is a great tool in its own right. They're all slightly different in the way that they're made up and the way that they work and the size of the router bits they can take. But which one is the most powerful? If we put the same router bits in all of these tools, who's going to come out on top? This 18 volt one, bigger than most trim routers, and so it has a bigger motor, better torque, but is it better than the new 36 volt trim router in the slim classic trim router design? It's interesting. I don't know which way this is going to go. And can this 36 volt compete with this 36 volt, or is this still miles ahead of a trim router? It's going to be interesting. I'm going to run this on one of the new power stack batteries. We'll run this on a 4 amp hour 36 volt battery. That's the biggest one that HiKOKI / Metabo HPT make. And the Makita will also, I'll put a 4 amp hour on there just to make it fair with this one. If you want to see this DeWalt smash a bunch of other 18 volt trim routers, take a look up in the top corner now. If you'd like to see the HiKOKI 36 volt review, take a look up in the top corner now. And if you'd like to see the review of the XGT, well, guess what? Take a look up in the top corner now, and I'll put links to all three of the reviews of these down in the description. So this video is not going to be a review of these tools, it's just who's the most powerful. I'm just going to push them to the limits, see which ones cut out, see which ones can cut the fastest. But now you're just going to have to amuse yourselves for a minute while I go and try and find some router bits that I can use in all three of these routers. So I think we'll just start off with this 1/2 inch channel bit, nothing too rough to begin with. We'll put one of those in each tool and we will attack a piece of H5 treated Pinus radiata house piles. Won't be this bit of course, this is just a dirty sopping wet offcut. But anyway, let's go do it, eh? Oh, and we'll cut to, seeing as it's 1/2 inch wide, how about we cut to 1/2 inch deep. That's about 12 or 13 mil by 12 or 13 mil. So all three tools there able to do that task. I deliberately didn't put a vacuum on to see if any of them could blow everything clear, but as you can see, they did not. The HiKOKI here was probably the worst for packing in sawdust afterwards, and the DeWalt was probably the best, but there's not a lot of difference in it. They're all a bit crummy in that regard. So what did I take from that test? Well, the Makita and the HiKOKI, much smoother to run than the DeWalt. The DeWalt just wants to race ahead. It's quick, but it's not precise. It just wants to go for it. It almost runs like you're running in the wrong direction and it just wants to run along the timber. You know, it's just pulling itself forward all the time. With the other two you have much more control. Now it's time to take it up a notch. We're going 15 millimeters deep with this one, and it's basically twice the width. This is 15 deep by 25 wide. We're going to do it in Vitex hardwood, not pine. Let's see how the three of them go with that. I expect the HiKOKI to do okay, but the other two might begin to struggle. So the Makita seemed to struggle there a bit. It got the job done in the end. It's fairly smooth, but it didn't sound all that happy. All these tests thus far, I've had the tools running on full whack, okay? They're on the top setting on each tool. That was fine through the pine, and I usually use this on top speed through VIDS and lower on pine, because pine tends to burn more. But for these tests I've had it on full whack. But yeah, the Makita struggling a bit there. We are getting close to the maximum size bit that these are really capable of doing, trim routers. You can't get anything bigger than about 30mm through this hole anyway. So this one's 25, so we're getting close. 25 by 15, you know, it's removing quite a lot of material in one go. When using larger router bits, it pays to go in multiple passes rather than one pass like I'm doing. But we're here to see just how powerful these things are, so that's why I'm doing it the way I'm doing it. Anyway, let's take a look at the DeWalt. Well, the DeWalt had a bit of trouble with that. It really struggled with that larger bit, and it was sucking through the juice. This battery was fresh on, fully charged, when I started that first cut you would have seen in this video. So it did that one cut, a couple of feet long, 3 feet it had maybe done. I was then using this for that second cut with the large bit, and it got about halfway and this battery was knackered. So These batteries, light, yes. Small, yes. Powerful, surprisingly, yes. Good runtime? Definitely not. They do not last very long under high drain circumstances. They're great on an impact driver if you want something light and you're doing work above your head and that sort of stuff. Makes things a lot easier to get into small spaces, keeps things light. You know, look at it compared to that. I mean, there is a big difference. But when it came to doing that routing, this was a far better option. Next up, the HiKOKI. Well, I think we have a clear winner with that router bit. What do you reckon? Next up though, I think I would like to give the DeWalt another try. You will have seen in that other shot, I changed the speed. I went from, started off fast, slowed it right down. It just wasn't really happy anywhere, couldn't find a sweet spot. And it doesn't cut out. These two cut out quite easily, the HiKOKI and the Makita. This just wants to keep going. So it only really cuts out when it jams up good and proper, and that damages your work. There'll be guys saying, oh yeah, it's great because it doesn't stall. Yeah, but when it does, it's because it's jammed everything up and destroyed your workpiece, whereas these will cut out without doing any damage. So anyway, I'd like to give this another try though, and I'll use the same bit, but we're gonna not do it as deep. So instead of lowering it in 15mm, I'm only going to lower it in 11. I'm going to take 4mm out of the equation, and we'll see if we can get this to cut a bit nicer, a bit smoother. And I guess it's now only fair that we do the same again with the Makita. So I'm going to have that sticking out 11mm. Let's go. Well, that felt pretty close, but let's take a look at them side by side. I was going to do another test, but I don't really think it's necessary. I think I've seen enough, and who wants to listen to these things whine anymore? The clear winner is the HiKOKI 36 volt, but it's not a quick tool. You have to go slowly. If you push it too hard, it does stall quite easily, but it is capable of doing larger cuts, and you can't stick anything like these sort of things into these two routers, whereas you can with the HiKOKI, as long as you take it slow. Also though, the HiKOKIs chews through so much juice. The HiKOKI and the DeWalt, both real bad on battery runtime. The Makita lasted much better. Never used a single light up on this 4 amp hour battery, whereas the DeWalt went through the power stack and has used up 1 bar on this 6 amp hour battery. So chewing through the juice, this one and this one, much better runtime on the Makita. I've always found that with the Makita trim routers, much better runtime over the DeWalt, the HiKOKI and the Milwaukee. If you're doing small routing tasks, then the DeWalt is the fastest. It beat these two, just, not by a lot, in that first test that we did, which I'll put them on the screen now all together, eh? But once we got into the larger bits, the Makita started to take over speed-wise, and even though it stalled in an earlier shot, it still beat the DeWalt for speed. The DeWalt struggled when we got into the big stuff, so that extra voltage that comes with this gave it just that bit more power it needed to push through the tough tasks. But the HiKOKI, still the best overall for the bigger stuff, for not cutting out and for overall speed. So there you have it, another video done and dusted. Well, speaking of dusted, I will now get out the old Makita duster here, clean these things off before I put them back in their cases and drawers and what have you, where I keep them. The next video in a couple of days' time is something a bit different. I'm looking at a storage solution to put all my tools in, so make sure you check that out, subscribe and all that stuff, and I'll see you on another one in a few days. Cheers! And yes, the DeWalt and the Makita both have plunge bases available. And if you want to buy any of this gear, have a look down in the description, there might be some links. Cheers!